Scripture to consider before the news. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. The he referenced will be the final pope, which will cause all the world to receive the mark of the beast after the beast is slain and risen. We are just being prepared right now. The Pope also just recently had an event at the Vatican called the Economy of Francis, which equates to the number of the beast when looked at with the practice of gematria using the prime cipher. In his latest book, Pope Francis also pushed the idea of universal basic income to the world, which also equates to the number of the beast. Gematria is an alphanumeric code of assigning a numerical value to a name, word or phrase based on its letters. A single word can yield multiple values depending on the cipher used. It is the final pope that will cause all to receive a mark, which also equates to the number of the beast in the Sumerian cipher along with vaccination. All the pieces are coming into place fast for the upcoming global kingdom of the beast, which will begin in the middle of the upcoming final prophetic week for Israel, the 70th week spoken of by Daniel the prophet. Now unto the news. Pope Francis says too much exclusion for a world in which all are equal. Pope Francis sends a letter to the World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund as they begin their virtual spring meetings. In his letter, the Pope stresses the importance of developing a just and equal society for all. In a letter addressed to the World Bank Group, led by a Jesuit-educated man, and the International Monetary Fund, Pope Francis noted that over the last year, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, our world has been forced to confront a series of grave and interrelated socio-economic, ecological and political crises. As the groups meet this spring, the Pope stresses that it is his hope that their discussions may contribute to a model of recovery, capable of generating new, more inclusive, and sustainable solutions to support the real economy, assisting individuals and communities to achieve their deepest aspirations and the universal common good. As the groups meet this spring, the Pope stresses that it is his hope that their discussions may contribute to a model of recovery, capable of generating new, more inclusive, and sustainable solutions to support the real economy, assisting individuals and communities to achieve their deepest aspirations and the universal common good. Equal, yet excluded. Pope Francis went on to note that, for all our deeply held convictions that all men and women are created equal, many of our brothers and sisters in the human family, especially those at the margins of society, are effectively excluded from the financial world. The pandemic, he continued, has reminded us that no one is saved alone. If we are to come out of this situation as a better, more humane, and solidary world, he said, new and creative forms of social, political and economic participation must be devised, sensitive to the voice of the poor and committed to including them in the building of our common future, through inclusive projects. Need for a global plan. The Pope then noted that many countries are now consolidating a recovery plan for COVID, but that there remains an urgent need for a global plan that can create new or regenerate existing institutions, particularly those of global governance, and help to build a new network of international relations for advancing the integral human development of all peoples. This, he explained, means giving poorer and less developed nations an effective share in decision-making and facilitating access to the international market. We cannot overlook the ecological debt that exists especially between the global north and south, continued the Pope. We are, in fact, in debt to nature itself, as well as the people and countries affected by human-induced ecological degradation and biodiversity loss, he added. In this regard, the Pope said, I believe that the financial industry, which is distinguished by its great creativity, will prove capable of developing agile mechanisms for calculating this ecological debt, so that developed countries can pay it, not only by significantly limiting their consumption of non-renewable energy or by assisting poorer countries to enact policies and programs of sustainable development, but also by covering the costs of the innovation required for that purpose. He continued, central to a just and integrated development is a profound appreciation of the essential objective and end of all economic life, namely the universal common good. Public money should never be disjoined from the public good, and financial markets should be underpinned by laws and regulations aimed at ensuring that they truly work for the common good. A future for our common home. Bringing his letter to a close, the Pope said that it is time to acknowledge that markets do not govern themselves. Markets need to be underpinned by laws and regulations that ensure they work for the common good, guaranteeing that finance works for the societal goals so much needed in the context of the present global healthcare emergency. Finally, the Pope expressed his hope that in these days of formal deliberations and personal encounters, the two organizations would bear much fruit from the discernment of wise solutions for a more inclusive and sustainable future. A future where finance is at the service of the common good, where the vulnerable and the marginalized are placed at the center, and where the earth, our common home, is well cared for. Could the first Jesuit pope be the final pope and false prophet? Time will tell. In other news, ECHR rules obligatory vaccination may be necessary. The ruling is the first time the European Court of Human Rights has weighed in on the issue of compulsory vaccinations. The ruling could play a role in efforts to end the COVID-19 pandemic. The European Court of Human Rights, ECHR, in Strasbourg ruled Thursday that compulsory vaccinations would not contravene human rights law and may be necessary in democratic societies. The ruling came following conclusion of a complaint brought to the court by Czech families regarding compulsory jabs for children. The measures could be regarded as being necessary in a democratic society, the court judgment read. Although the ruling did not deal directly with COVID-19 vaccines, experts believe it could have implications for the vaccination drive against the virus, especially for those who have so far stated a refusal to accept the jab. This judgment reinforces the possibility of a compulsory vaccination under conditions of the current COVID-19 epidemic. Nicolas Hervieux, a legal expert specializing in the ECHR, told AFP news agency. What was the court ruling about? The decision said that the compulsory vaccines administered by Czech health authorities were in line with the best interests of children. The objective has to be that every child is protected against serious diseases, through vaccination or by virtue of herd immunity, it added. The court ruled that the Czech health policy was not in violation of Article 8 on the right to respect for private life in accordance with the European Convention on Human Rights. By Czech law, children must be vaccinated against 9 diseases including diphtheria, tetanus, whooping cough, hepatitis B and measles. The case was brought to the court by families who had been fined, or whose children had been refused access to a nursery for failing to comply with their legal vaccination duty. Lastly, UAE to host first ever official Holocaust Remembrance Day ceremonies in Arab state. As Israel prepares to mark Yom HaShoah, the National Holocaust Remembrance Day, Jews and Muslims in the Gulf will hold ceremonies to also commemorate the occasion. According to Channel 12 News, it will be the first time Yom HaShoah has officially been marked in an Arab country. The network said a ceremony would be held in Dubai with a delegation of Jewish and Arab Israelis. Several dozen social media influencers in the Gulf are set to join them, and organizers hope they will pass on the stories of survival and remembrance. And, for the first time ever, the Jewish communities of Bahrain and Dubai will be participating in the Yellow Candle Project, the global communal effort to remember victims of the Holocaust, whereby members from each community will light a yellow candle in memory of the name of a Jew who perished during the Holocaust. The Arab nations, with the driving force being MBS, are getting cozy with Israel prior to the covenant confirmed by the Prince of the Covenant coming up. Scripture to consider. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. Can you prove your name is in the book of life? If you can't, you will be cast into the lake of fire for your life of sins. BeingJustified.com can help you while in the land of the living.